Hello, I'm an artist and I'm also a nerd, so I'm very fascinated with art history, so I decided that today I'm going to be ranking my favorite artworks, specifically from every modern art period. So let's get started. First up we have Impressionism, the first ever modern art movement, and honestly I really don't think I could make this video and talk about Impressionism without mentioning the man who made it. So, for my pick for my favorite artwork from the Impressionist period, I picked Claude Monet's Woman with Parasol. It's got incredible colors, cool subject matter, and I'm a sucker for any artwork with clouds in it. I don't know why, I just like them. Next up we have Post-Impressionism, which was the world's response to Impressionism. There was this new type of art in town, and after the founding fathers of Impressionism had gone through their careers, some new young artists decided to take it to the next level. And I'm going to be honest, my favorite post-impressionist artist is Vincent van Gogh. But, however, I do think that there is one artwork that is an absolute masterpiece, and I think it beats out any Van Gogh work. In my opinion, the best post-impressionist artwork, and honestly one of my favorite artworks probably of all time, is A Sunday Afternoon on the Island of La Grande Jatte by Georges Seurat. It is incredible, and Seurat was also the person who started pointillism, which is like a subgenre of Impressionism, if you will. And yeah, the setting is absolutely incredible, and it just has a very good feel to it. And the perspective from seeing everybody from the side is something that I haven't seen in a lot of artworks, making it very, very unique in that aspect. So that's my pick. The next modern art period is Favism. And during this art period is when they really started experimenting with color and making that the main point of different artworks. Trying to make everything really vibrant and beautiful and capturing feeling with color. And my favorite artist from this art period is Henri Matisse. However, I think that my favorite artwork from this art period is probably Mountains at Collier by André Derain. I'm not really sure why, but I think it definitely is a great example of what Favism is, and it definitely uses very good colors, and I like this setting as well. The next art movement is Expressionism, and this is when people really started to focus on feeling in artwork, and they would use dramatic facial expression and lighting and color to really create an atmospheric feeling in an artwork. And one of my favorite artists of all time is from this period, Edvard Munch. I think he is incredible, and his artwork, The Sixth Child, is one of the most atmospheric artworks I've ever seen. It really captures the feeling very well with the lighting and the very rough brushstrokes. So I love this artwork, and I think it is my favorite artwork from the Expressionist period. Next is Cubism, which provided one of the most drastic changes in art ever, with its founder Pablo Picasso reconstructing how he drew the human figure and geometrically changing its shapes and proportions in order to make something that would be called similar to a cartoon in today's sense. I'm going to be honest, I really don't like Cubism that much as an art period, but I am a big fan of Picasso, and I really like his portraits that he makes, and his overall style is very good. And while The Ladies of d'Avignon is one of the most influential artworks of all time, it's not my favorite work by Picasso, and I think that my favorite one is probably Guernica, or just one of his portraits. I just really like his portraits. Next up we have Dada, the first conceptual art movement, and one of the most interesting ones in my opinion. It was after World War II, and these group of people who would later go on to be named as the Dadaists were very, very devastated after the atrocities of World War II, and they wanted to express in their art a feeling of rejecting everything. They didn't want to sit there and whine and complain about the sadness of the war. Instead, they wanted to laugh. They wanted to mock. And the Dada art movement is all about rejecting the world and rejecting everything. And the Dadaists made it their mission to laugh instead of cry and to use their art to mock the evil they saw in the world. And the most famous Dada art piece is Marcel Duchamp's Fountain, but my favorite is probably The Hat Makes the Man by Max Ernst for personal reasons. But I do think that Marcel Duchamp's Fountain is definitely a masterpiece of Dada art, and it really made us question what art is. So yeah, Fountain is a very cool and interesting art piece, as well as the many other Dada art pieces out there that really make you question some things, like how Fountain really made us question what is art, and how many of Dada's artworks question how should we treat the bourgeoisie, and what should we do about war, and really mocking and poking fun at some of the atrocities that they saw in society. Back to back, we have two amazing art periods, and the next one is surrealism. And surrealism was majorly influenced by the philosophical concepts of Freud, and it used juxtapositions and lots of symbolism and influences from automatism and dreams to create fictional and very surreal imagery. My favorite artwork from this period is The Son of Man by Rene Magritte, and I like this artwork for my own personal interpretation of it and just how it really catches your attention. It's very cool that Magritte was able to do that. We now have three really, really interesting art periods in a row, in my opinion, and now we're going to talk about abstract expressionism. This is when people started going away from any representation or figure or meaning in their art. People did this for different reasons, maybe just to create something truly new that didn't come from any already existent image, and some of them wanted to do it just to have the satisfactory feeling that comes with creating. But I personally love Clyfford Still and Mark Rothko. Those are my favorite abstract artists, and their work actually makes me feel emotion, like I'm listening to a piece of music or other forms of very abstract, very raw art. And one particular piece by him I especially love very much. I don't believe it has a title, but yeah. Abstract expressionism is a pretty controversial art period, as many people like being able to tell what an artwork is, when really abstract art isn't representational at all, and that's what it is. Others say that it takes no skill, which a lot of times is true. It really doesn't take skill to draw squares like Mark Rothko. But I personally really do enjoy his artworks, and when I look at them, I love them. So, I don't know. And just like all art, especially in contemporary art of today, 2022, you really have to take effort and look for art that you like, or maybe a specific period or style that you like. And I don't like a lot of abstract art. I find a lot of it boring, just like I find a lot of classical art boring. But I think we can all, if we want to appreciate art, then we have to take the effort to find art that we do like, because I think everyone can find their own Clyfford Still and say, wow, this is art that I really enjoy. And I don't think that has to be limited to a particular period, or art that is representational. Now we have the pop art movement of the 1960s. It's 60 years later, and I really don't think pop art has sort of accomplished what I think it was going for, and it's been 60 years. And I'm not really a fan of pop art in general. I do think some people like Roy Lichtenstein have cool styles with their art, but I just really don't like pop art that much. Although I think that many pop artists were good artists and they created good images, but I just didn't like the whole idea of doing all these brand collaborations to try to get art in the mass media, because let's be honest, that didn't really work, because now in 2022 we still have a ton of people who don't really appreciate art, or people who don't really have a lot of art in their lives. Obviously music has always been and will probably continue to be very big in most people's lives, but visual arts, not so much. So yeah, I'm gonna give it to um, Andy Warhol's Marilyn Monroe diptych, just because I don't know a lot about pop art, and I think that one is sort of cool with the whole concept of it and the meaning that you can find in it. Next up is Fluxus, which was another sort of conceptual art movement which focused on trying to make art a part of our everyday lives and focused on audience participation and wanting to get people to interact with art. Um, Sort of like pop art, I guess, but they did it in a better way. So, yeah. Yoko Ono is, pretty famous in the music scene and for her relationship with John Lennon, but she was also a Fluxus and Neo-Dada artist, and her art series of wishing trees I find very, very cool. And yeah, the whole concept was that it was a tree and people were to write down stuff that they wished for or wanted and hang it up on the tree. I think that's just a cool concept, so that's my favorite artwork. I mean, they're really plural, but yeah, from Fluxus. Moving on to minimalism. If you've ever heard less is more, then that's basically minimalism. It's just very minimalist. I mean, I guess that's the word to describe it. I've never really gotten into minimalist art, just because a lot of times less isn't really more for me, so I'm not too into it. But I like some of them, and The Marriage of Reason and Squalor by Frank Stella is probably my favorite artwork from this period. Next is land or earth art, which is when people make some structure or something out of the Earth's landscape or using it. And I picked Spiral Jetty by Robert Smithson for my favorite. It's the most famous one out there, and for very good reason too. I can only imagine standing on that jetty. It would probably be very, very, very cool. But yeah, that's my pick from land art. Next is the photo generation period, where people would start making artworks using or involving photography, because we had full-grown adults now who had grown up with the camera and photography, and instead of having to rely on art for images, they would have photography. So we had a lot of photography-based artworks during this time period, which I believe was around the late 60s to early 70s. So Barbara Kruger is an artist from this period, and I like a lot of her artworks, some of them not so much, but her artwork, Know Nothing, Believe Anything, Forget Everything, is a very cool artwork in my opinion. I like it. I like her use of direct address. I do like her font, but yeah, I think it's a cool artwork, and probably my favorite from this period. Okay, and last but certainly not least is NeoExpressionism, and just like regular Expressionism had one of my favorite artists, this one has one of my favorite artists. Jean-Michel Basquiat is incredible, and he has made my favorite artwork from the Neo-Expressionist period, which is his skull from 1981. I also do like his other skull, which is the one that was famous for selling really high. I do like that artwork as well, but I think I like his 1981 skull a little bit better. And I'm actually getting an art print of it, which I'll probably put over there to replace this Donald Duck, which wasn't even drawn by me. So it's like, yeah, I want to take it down. But that also doesn't make sense because I'm replacing something that wasn't drawn by me with a print of something that also wasn't drawn by me. Yeah, that wasn't drawn by me. So I hope you enjoyed this video and liked sort of going over some different art movements and talking about some of my personal favorites from it. And if you'd like more art history videos, comment about it, or maybe share your own opinion down below. And also, I don't know if I've already said this, but these aren't the best artworks from this period. These are just my favorite. If I was ranking the best, then the list would be a little bit different, because I can personally just enjoy an artwork and have it be my favorite, but it not necessarily be the best one. Thank you so much for watching this video, because if there's anything I want to share with the world, it's the useless facts I know about art history and my actual art. So, see you later.